Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Have you ever felt this way, or maybe you're feeling this way now? Maybe you said this recently. I'm stuck in a rut. I am just stuck in a rut. What does that mean? You're doing the same stuff over and over again. You're not moving yourself forward. Basically, it's your pattern of life, of living. There's a reason that you're doing that. You might not know that reason. How do you find it? Well, she helps you with that. She is a hypnotherapist, also a nurse practitioner, helps a lot of people figure this all out. And this stuff that creates the pattern of living goes back many years, potentially. She's back with us, Victoria Deeks, on the program. Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. This could be a game changer for a lot of people. They can't figure out why they still are in the same types of relationships, why they have the same situation at work, why they don't have abundance, they're not making money, all of these things, the pattern. We're stuck in a rut. It's a pattern. But this is something that was placed in our subconscious potentially long ago, right?
Right. Yeah. A lot of stuff goes back to childhood and how we just develop as a person.
And I don't want people to think that, oh, I don't have a bad childhood. Everything's great. Yeah, that's wonderful. But there's still things that we absorbed as kids that pilot us today. And they could be the littlest things that happen as a kid. Or
Exactly.
instead of me saying happen, because it sounds like a big event,
Yeah.
more of that you experience as a child. It could have been you got bullied on the playground once, and that made a mark. There was a fight on the playground. You were 8 years old, and that could stop your progress and progression in terms of self-confidence. There's so many different things. You must hear many things from people that you work with, or the aha moments that come through with hypnotherapy.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting to have people come in and say they want to work on a particular issue, and then as you talk to them more, you can get to the real pinpoint thing to address.
Do you find that many of us don't even know what they are?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And I
Mm.
think, and sometimes, different people, for me, I think I'm pretty, uh, I'll just come to the same block or the same wall with uh, interacting with people, for example. And I just have no idea. It's like, how am I stuck in this again? And so being able to go back, and sometimes
Mm.
you don't understand what it is. And going back with hypnotherapy, your subconscious will bring it forward, and you can just go, you'll just have this aha moment that comes
Sure.
out. Yeah.
Could you share? I mean, this is all confidential. We don't even know who these people are, no identity, anything like that. But some examples that came through with a hypnotherapy session that connected, somebody experienced this in childhood, and that's why they have challenges today with this, whatever this is.
Well, for one thing, I think people think, well, I made it through, whatever. I made it through my childhood, or I made it through a certain event. So you kind of downplay it a lot of times, that if you survived, it wasn't that big of a deal. So going back to just kind of, I don't want to say nitpicking, but just putting the puzzle pieces together and seeing how they could affect people. And
Hmm.
everybody's different. Like, you could say something, I could share something that happened in my childhood, and somebody else could share their event, and their event maybe impacted them more greatly, where I would be thinking, gosh, if that happened to me, I don't know if it wouldn't have carried the same weight.
Yeah, because everybody's different. Every child is different. And like when we go back, and by the way, just to address that, you say, people nowadays can say as an adult, well, I got through that. Yeah, I had some challenges when I was younger. I got through that. Well, great. However, many times when you go through something, let's say surgery. You have whatever. I'm not talking about surgery in the childhood, but I'm using it as an example.
Mhm.
When you go through something, there's usually some scars, and you have to sometimes address the scars. Maybe you go to a cosmetic surgeon, and they take
Uh-huh.
care of it, and they make things look better or feel better for you. It's the same kind of thing when you've gone through whatever it is in your childhood, big or small. There's usually some, I hate to say this, it's the best description I have, collateral damage. There's some
Yeah,
damage to your progression of moving forward, and it needs to be addressed if you want to move forward and feel better.
right. Yeah, and I always think it may be not so much damaging, but just the path that you're on. And so you progress on a certain path and something comes up and you take a right turn when maybe it would have been better to take a left turn.
Hmm.
And so, just kind of going back to that where it it's just a different direction.
Hmm. Yeah. And when we talk about those paths, you always hear from people, who are either single or in a relationship that doesn't support them. And it always comes up many times. If I keep
Oh
finding the
yeah.
same person, women will say, same guys. I always find the same. Why are there any good guys out there? There are. How you doing?
Uh-huh.
It's many times we pick those people that don't support us for a reason. In that example, what are some of the reasons that could go back to our childhood that we keep picking people that don't support us?
Well, it's what you're comfortable with. So even if it's a bad situation, it's kind of known in some way. So, people want to be in something that uh, they understand on some level. And
Yeah,
also your own self-confidence and value. So it all pulls together with who you're going to be most comfortable with or drawn to or have
sure.
them drawn to you.
It's a label. I don't like the label, but in my experience, it's true. Uh, if we talk about women, men the same way, daddy issues, mommy issues. It's real.
Oh
it's a,
yeah.
not always, we deal with that, but we do many times. What does it do? Go right back to our childhood and what we experience, how we internalize things. And like you said, the comfortable thing, we pick people based on our parents or unresolved situations within our parents.
Right. Correct. Absolutely.
It's a big deal.
It
Like it's,
is. It
you know,
is.
let's say, hypothetically, your parents got divorced and you're a woman. You didn't have a great relationship with your dad. So you're probably potentially going to be picking partners who you want acceptance from because who's the biggest figure in your life? Your father. And maybe you didn't get that from your father. So now you're seeking it out and you're seeking these guys that aren't really the best choice for you.
Right. You're just repeating
Sure.
what you understand. Yeah.
So when you do a hypnotherapy session, Victoria, how does this all come up?
Well, usually I spend a lot of time talking to people to begin with and getting them kind of to feel centered with what they're trying to explore. And so there's a lot of talking that goes into the beginning. I don't just have them come in and say, "Oh, I want to work on this," and it's like, "Great, let's go." So I think that kind of gets them more settled into what they really
Hmm.
want to look at, and then there's just kind of awakening that part of themselves, and then just work from there. And then once they've come back from the hypnosis, going over what came up, and it's really interesting a lot of times what we'll
Hmm.
have presented to them.
Do you find that a larger percentage of the people that you work with don't even know what they're looking for? They just don't feel right. I'm stuck. I don't feel I'm stuck in a rut,
Yeah,
whatever it might be.
totally. Oh yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
they'll come in for one little thing and then, other things will come up and they feel
Yeah.
like they've gotten benefit on maybe the original issue, but we start working on other things. And I always tell people, the time between sessions is just as valuable as the session itself, just being more aware of what's coming up for you, or how you see things differently, or what you realize, oh, this is really triggering for me, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Well, in the example of a woman and her father, and that's unresolved. Now, if it's clearer, she can see that. And yeah, it does take time, but maybe she'll see the signs of, the next guy that comes along, like, oh, wait a minute. That probably isn't a good idea. Seems like
Mhm.
it would be. We hit it off really well, but maybe there's something that I should be looking at a little bit deeper.
Right.
Yeah.
and
Does
and knowing and knowing to talk about
right.
that this is an issue for me.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
and you
It's
don't
on,
have
it's
to
on my
go into
radar.
detail. You don't even have to go into details. It's just like, this is just something for me that I need to take care of for myself, or however you want to say it.
Do you find the aha moments for people many times, or does it just organically come up and they say, oh, wow, I never realized that?
I think, the longer I've done this, I can see things that are probably issues or underlying problems. But a lot of people, especially I think as you get older, um, they can go back and see things more clearly because
Mm,
they've repeated so many
yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But, I've had people say, like, I just had perfect childhood. It was great, but they can't tell me many details about it. And so then I start wondering, like,
Hmm.
there's something else going on here.
Yeah. And that's a great point you bring up, because the person that says, I don't have any family issues, everything's fantastic, there's no problems, you're lying. We
Yeah,
all, everything, if you think about it there, and I'm not being negative, it's just life. This is
right.
called relationships. If you look at it deeper, there may be a rift going on right now with, a cousin, or there's something nobody is perfect. No relationship is perfect. It is relationships at work. It takes work to make them work. Um, but that being said, it's an interesting point you bring up when somebody says, yeah, my childhood was fantastic, but they can't remember. Um, what does that say to you?
That there's something that's buried, that they're not comfortable addressing, or they don't want to bring up. And it's not, and I always think, with hypnotherapy, you'll bring things up when you're ready to. So if you can't remember stuff, I don't go back and go digging through
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
But just kind of starting out with today, and just searching backwards. And a lot of people, when they come back from hypnosis, they'll go like, oh my gosh, I had this memory, I haven't thought about that in a long time. Or they'll have somebody come to them, maybe somebody who's passed away, and they'll remember some interaction with them that they hadn't thought about. And just being open to that, and not trying to say, oh no, that was bad, I can't look at that. Because
Hmm.
I mean, there's good and bad, and I think it's a real cultural thing too, that we're all supposed to be really positive and only look at the good things. And so you're not even encouraged to address the opposite.
And I said that briefly before, but I want to go there again. I'm not being negative here today. This is not negativity. This is realizing stuff from your childhood that's holding you back from stuff in your adulthood. And there's always stuff. There's there. It's all there. Um, Interesting you say that somebody will say that, oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time, that memory, and it came up. When I did hypnotherapy before we met with a practitioner, I saw the images of my childhood. My childhood wasn't horrible, but yeah, there was stuff there that translates to today. And, I addressed it and all good. But I've seen those images before. It just came up in a different way. where I can apply today to yesterday. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that happened. I see, saw that for the first time. It wasn't that, but it made me deeper think to bring those images back up again that maybe I haven't seen in my mind in, decades. So it wasn't, I had no surprises. But does that happen for some people that, yeah, something comes up that they didn't realize, or they blocked it so much that it they wouldn't think about it on a daily basis, or just try and think of it.
Yeah. So
Mm,
like I always do a thing where um I take people along this path, and then they get to this hillside and have them look back on that path and have them see parts of it and realize, oh, that's their life
mm,
from, going back from this point in time, and just bring up things that were fun and exciting and interesting, and things that maybe they hadn't thought of in a long time, and just enjoying those memories, and then seeing other things that were happened along the way that um, were more maybe stressful, or things that they realized that they've been hanging on to. Because a lot of times people they'll go like, well, I hold on to this aspect because it's helped me through something else. And all of a
mm,
sudden maybe realizing, oh, now it's time to get rid of that. And so then packing those into a backpack and carrying them off. But things that people realize like, oh yeah, I don't need that anymore. Or yeah, I do want to get rid of that, is a big
mm,
it's interesting. And sometimes, people come back and I don't ask them details, about things, but it's just, did anything interesting come up? And they'll share things, or, it's totally for the person. So it's not talk therapy. But
hmm.
so
Well, that's the difference between a hypnotist and a hypnotherapist. A hypnotist can just hypnotize you with your
mhm,
with your permission. All right, great. But they don't look deeper into it from a therapeutic standpoint. So in my mind, correct me if I'm wrong on this, a hypnotist is, the one that does the stage show that can potentially make you bark like a dog or cluck like a
right,
chicken. Um, yeah, they're not going to offer therapy or make connections. You're just going to do it again with your permission. I say that because many people may think that, you can do this just meow, I'm
right.
sleepy. No, it doesn't work that way. Look back at previous podcasts. We'll explain that. Um, is it like a movie? Do people tell you that, like you talked about the hill looking down and all of that? Do they say it's like watching a movie of their life?
I haven't had anybody say that, but
Hmm.
just that certain memories came up. And I have had people that say, whatever I was talking about, they didn't, if I'm saying, oh, you're walking through a forest or something, they'll just kind of see colors. So that doesn't happen too often, but
Hmm.
it's just a different way they're interpreting it. And anything I say, I mean, I've had this happen under hypnotherapy. Somebody will say, okay, now you're going along a beach, and you know, I can't think of anything, something floating in from the
Huh.
ocean. And I'll
Okay.
go like, well, nothing floated in there for me. And so whatever's right is how you're going to take
Yep.
whatever the hypnotherapist is saying.
For me, it was movie like, but I like to think I'm very visual. And it was also, and I guess this is a technique where you confront your younger self, like you say something, you can see, oh, there I am when I was 8, and there I am now. And now you're going to say things to your younger self to help you heal. Um, that's why it looked like I was watching a movie. Is it is it reasonable to think that the older you get, the more stuff you got to take out of the emotional backpack, as I like to say, and deal with? So sometimes it could take an extra session or a few to reach your goal.
Yes. And some people, want to, and some people are like, no, I don't even want to open that can of worms. So they just want to deal with the one thing that they're there for. But yeah, as you get older, and I think, I don't know, as for personally, as I get older, I don't tend to judge things as much that has happened to me or happens to other people. So it's just like an interesting episode in your
Mm.
life.
I I've recommended hypnotherapy to people I'm close with, and it's worked well. There were two. She only did one session. Not going to work. She has a lot to unpack. I just know it.
Mhm.
That's why I suggested it. Somebody else went maybe three or four three sessions. I want to say no, it was four. Um, she claims it didn't really work that well, but here's the disclaimer. I know that she's not very open about things.
Mhm.
And I I'm I guarantee that she put up blocks and didn't want to open herself up a little bit more to understanding and connecting. I don't think it was the hypnotherapist because at that time I knew who the hypnotherapist was, and I think she's good. So
Mhm.
um, you have to want to make the change and heal.
Right. Yeah, you have to be motivated and
Yeah.
have some level of commitment, and yeah, being
Yeah.
able to be open.
Yeah. It's like if somebody wants to stop smoking, your spouse partner can't say, you need to stop smoking. I'm making an appointment in Victoria and you're going to do a Zoom with her and you're going to stop smoking. Well, if you
Right.
don't want to, it's not going to work.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You have
I'm
to
sh-
be there for yourself.
exactly. Yeah. And want to make it happen. So let's make it happen. How do we connect with you? Do you offer a free consult if somebody has a question? You're not going to hypnotize them, but
Right.
just to understand a little bit more or what their goals may be and if you can help them.
Yes. I always, people, message me or call and want to set up a session. And I always talk to them on the phone first and explain things and answer questions and
Yeah.
so they can have an idea of who I am. I mean, it's a real trust thing to go in and open yourself up to that. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes a little bit of courage, but you're easygoing, easy to talk to. And again, we go back to, we always say this, you're not going to make somebody do something they don't want to do. You're not.
right.
And even if, you know, halfway through a session, somebody says, I can't, no, I don't want to, then just, they can end it. You're awake. It's not like you're,
Yeah.
you're in a trance or anything like that. You could just say, no, I can't, I'm not going to go there. That's okay. That's
Oh
okay.
yeah.
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 How do we find you?
So my website is centraloregonhypnotherapy.com. So you can email me or you could call. The phone number is 971-221-3730. And I'd love to speak to anyone.
Sure. And the best part is you can do this anywhere virtually. So yeah, be great to be in your surroundings there. That's fine. However, any hypnotherapy I've ever done has been virtual.
Mhm.
Wear your pajamas, get in a comfortable
Yeah,
chair. That's it.
exactly.
And that's
Yeah,
that's that's great because you're in your own domain, your own area, to add to the comfortable portion of it to make it a little less I guess challenging for some people that may have some unease about it. I get it.
sure.
It's a new experience.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
um, get out of the rut. Yeah, make that change. Central Oregon Hypnotherapy.com, correct?
Yes.
Excellent. Victoria, great talking with you today, and something that we needed to talk about because a lot of us are stuck in the rut, and there's a reason for that. And I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Take
Thanks.
care.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.